So we'll begin our class in whatever position you find most comfortable. You can choose a seated position or a reclined one. It's up to you. And once you've found a position that feels comfortable and supported, we'll take a moment to notice every place where the body touches down on the ground or some other surface. And we'll allow ourselves to settle into that surface a bit more deeply, allowing the body to become a bit heavier, a bit more connected, and a bit more grounded. You can choose if you'd like to close your eyes or allow your gaze to soften so that you can turn your attention inward. And we'll start to scan through the body, noticing any areas where you're holding tension or where there might be some tightness. And at each one of those points of contact, maybe allow yourself to settle in again to the support beneath you. Give yourself permission to release and to soften. Gradually working your way through the body, making note of any areas where there is tightness or tension. And then we'll turn our attention to our breath without changing anything necessarily. Starting off by noticing how the breath feels as it enters and exits the body. Noticing what parts of the body move as you inhale and exhale. And if you do notice that your breathing is a bit shallow or a bit short, try drawing the next inhale a little bit more deeply into the body. As you inhale, imagining the air traveling all the way down the back of the throat, down the length of the spine, filling up the chest, the lungs expand, the rib cage expands, and then all the way down the belly rises. As we exhale, the opposite occurs. Belly softens. The air travels back up and out. As the lungs empty, the ribs knit back together, the chest softens. As you inhale, allowing your body to fill up completely. And as you exhale, finding some more softness. We'll look for a rhythm and depth of breath that feels comfortable and sustainable. So if after a few breaths you notice that you feel like you're forcing it, try allowing those breaths to be a little bit more gentle, a little bit softer. When you're ready, when you found the rhythm that works for you, you'll start to bring a little bit of movement back into the body, gently wiggling fingers, wiggling toes. Wiggling wrists or ankles. Turning the head from side to side. We'll bring the body back to stillness. And we'll begin our asana practice in a reclined position. So if you're seated or in any other shape, coming down onto the mat on your back. And drawing the knees in towards the chest. We'll wrap our hands around our shins or hamstrings and maybe gently rock from side to side, massaging the low back, noticing the connection of the body on the mat. And let's bring ourselves back to stillness. We'll release the feet down onto the ground. And then allow the knees to fall open, bringing the soles of the feet together, coming into a butterfly or bound angle pose. You can have your feet closer to your body. Usually that's a little bit more intense. Or further away from your body, which is usually a little bit more relaxed. If you have any cushions or blocks nearby, you can support your legs with those if you'd like. If your legs feel uncomfortable and you don't have any props available, you can form your hands into little balls and place them under your thighs near where your leg meets your hip. We'll look for a gentle stretch along the inner thighs, nothing too intense. And then we'll draw the shoulders down the back, pressing them into the mat, allowing the collarbone to be broad and the chest to be open. And tuck the chin down towards the heart to lengthen the back of the neck. And again, if you'd like your eyes closed, you can softly close them. If you'd like them open, find something within your view to gaze at, and then allow your gaze to soften. Take a moment to release your jaw, soften the muscles of your forehead, and allow the back of the body to connect with the mat, getting heavier with each breath out. And as you inhale, noticing a sense of expansion, a sense of filling up. And as you exhale, notice a sense of softness, of release, of heaviness. If you're not using your hands to support your legs, you could choose to place them one on your heart and one on your belly so that you can feel your breath moving in and out. Giving yourself some external tactile information. If you'd like to stretch a bit more through the upper body and the arms, you could take hold of opposite elbows or opposite wrists and bring those arms up overhead, framing the face. Or you could allow your arms to rest at your sides, choosing whatever option you prefer. And breathe in, filling up, and breathe out, releasing. Allowing yourself to pause in this shape. Scanning through the body, Once again, looking for any areas that are feeling tight or tense and encouraging them to soften, to release. Take 5 more slow, deep breaths here, going at your own pace. And whenever you finish your 5 breaths, if your arms are up overhead, bringing them back down alongside the body. And then we'll draw the knees back up towards one another, planting the feet on the floor about hip distance apart. We'll allow the arms to rest back at the sides, and we'll let the legs be in a neutral position. So both legs are parallel with one another, knees and ankles are in line with the hips, bringing the hip into a neutral position. We'll pause for a moment, checking in, noticing any sensation through the low back, the hips, the knees, the ankles. And then from here, let's cross the right ankle over top of the left thigh. We'll flex the right ankle so the toes draw back towards the shin, and we'll press the right knee away from the body. Taking a moment to sense the outer right hip. Notice if you're already feeling a stretch there. If you are, maybe staying where you are. And if you don't feel it just yet, lifting the left foot off the mat, threading the right hand in between the legs and wrapping both hands around the back of the left hamstring. Remember to keep flexing through the right ankle to help protect the knee joint. Engages some of the muscles throughout the leg. We'll keep moving the right knee away from the body. And if you are holding your left leg off the ground, gradually drawing that left leg inward. Finding a place where there's just a gentle stretch along the outer right hip, nothing too intense. And once you've found that place to rest, letting your shoulders soften, drawing your chin down towards your heart, and breathing into any tension that you feel. As you inhale, maybe allow your legs to move slightly away from your body. And as you exhale, draw them in just slightly. Finding a way to work with the rhythm of your breath. To gradually settle yourself deeper into the pose. After a few breaths, taking a moment to check in once again, noticing that sensation in the right hip. If it's become more intense, feel free to take a gentler variation of the pose. Maybe moving the left leg away from the body or placing the left foot back down onto the floor. And if after a few breaths you notice that you're not feeling that sensation anymore, your edge has changed, feel free to move a little bit deeper, drawing that left knee a little closer, working the right knee away from the body, adjusting as you need, and continuing to work with your breath. Let's take 2 more final deep breaths on this side. And then we'll release, placing both feet down onto the floor. Once again, allowing them to be about hip distance apart, finding the hips in a neutral position and pausing, checking in, allowing yourself to fully breathe in and fully breathe out. And then we'll take the other side, crossing the left ankle over the right thigh. We'll flex at the left ankle so the toes draw back towards the shin. And then we'll press that left knee away from the body. One side of the body might be a bit different from the other, so really taking the time to check in, feeling how the left hip feels, deciding if you need to stay where you are because you're already feeling some tension or tightness there, or if you feel like you need to move deeper by lifting the right foot off the floor, threading the left hand in between the legs and wrapping both hands around the back of the right hamstrings. We'll keep the left ankle flexed so the toes are drawing back, and press the left knee away from the body. Taking this opportunity again to notice any differences, one side of the body to the other. Find that place that feels like your edge, where there's some tension, but not too much, no pain. And then allow your upper body to release and soften, letting the shoulders get heavier, drawing the chin down towards the heart. If you notice that you're clenching through your jaw, letting that go, and softening the rest of the muscles of the face. Breathing in to fill up and breathing out to soften. And after a few breaths, we'll check in once again. Really noticing any sensation in the left hip. If that sensation has become stronger, it's become really uncomfortable, you can take a gentler variation of the pose, maybe releasing your hands, moving the right leg further away from the body, placing the right foot down onto the floor. And if you've stopped feeling that sense of stretch, maybe moving yourself a little bit deeper, allowing your left knee to press away from your body and your right knee to draw inwards. Always working with that edge, constantly checking in, using the sensation of the pose to stay present in this moment. If you notice that your mind starts to wander, notice where your thoughts go. Notice what draws your attention. And then release those thoughts. Bring your attention back to the present moment, back to the shape you're in, back to the feeling of the breath. Take 2 more slow, complete breaths in this pose. And then we'll release, placing the right foot and left foot down on the ground, letting them be about hip distance apart, allowing the hips to be in a neutral position, legs are parallel with one another. Taking a couple of breaths in that neutral shape. And then taking your time, imagining that each movement is like its own yoga pose. We'll make our way up into a tabletop shape. So you might start by rolling onto one side and pausing there. And then pressing up to a seated position. And again, pausing there. Coming up onto hands and knees. And then stacking yourself on your mat. Allowing shoulders to be over wrists and hips to be over knees. We'll take the right hand in towards the midline of our mat. And then we'll step the right foot just outside of that right hand, setting up for a low lunge or a dragon. So we'll have our feet pointing straight forwards or out on a 45-degree angle, maybe toes point towards the top right corner of the mat. We'll have our right knee stacking over our right ankle. And from here, we'll look for a little bit of a stretch, either through the right hamstrings or front of the left hip or both. So in order to find that, you can adjust the distance between your legs. If you're already feeling it and it's too intense, you can slide your left knee further forward. And if you're not feeling it yet, you need to go a little bit deeper. You can slide that left knee a little bit further back. Remembering to continue checking in, making sure that right knee is stacking over right ankle. And then we have a few options for the arms. So you're welcome to stay as you are with hands flat on the floor. If you have any tenderness through your wrists and that's not comfortable, you can place your hands in balls and place a flat part of your knuckles down on the floor so that there's no angle on your wrist. Your wrist is in line with your hand. If you're comfortable with it and it's available to you, you can start to come down onto your elbows. If both elbows can rest comfortably on the floor. So if you come down and you're feeling really light through the right arm, I'd encourage you to come back up and pause for a few moments in a more upright shape, allowing your hips to sink down and forward. And you also have the option here to let your right knee fall open to the side, coming onto the outer edge of the right foot. If you are doing that, making sure your right foot is on that 45-degree angle. I don't know if you can see from where I am, so I'll turn just to show. So my foot is out on 45-degree angle, and then my knee tips open, coming onto the outer edge of my right foot. It's just a different variation, a different sensation in the hip. It's not necessarily deeper or less deep than keeping the knee upright. So maybe trying it out and seeing if you feel that it serves you today. And then deciding to stay with the knee open or drawing it in. If it is open, that's known as the winged dragon. And as much as possible, we'll soften through the shoulders, let the jaw relax. Let the gaze soften downwards so the back of the neck is long. And as we inhale, let's imagine lengthening those left toes all the way away from the crown of the head. So the whole back of the body is getting longer. And as we exhale, we'll settle the hips down and forward, rooting down through both feet and settling towards the earth. Breathing in and breathing out. This pose is a little bit more intense, so if you ever feel like you need to take a break, feel free to come out of the pose and come back in when you're ready. And let's take 5 more slow, steady breaths on this side. Again, filling up completely as you inhale and softening as you exhale, releasing all of that air, all of the stale energy. And whenever you finish your 5 breaths, we'll make our way slowly out of the pose. So to start off with, if you did come down onto your elbows, coming back up onto your hands. If your knee is open to the side, bringing it back in towards the body. If you walked your left knee further back, we'll bring it forward once again. And then we'll step the right foot back beside the left. And let's pause in our tabletop position. Wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. We'll press the floor away to create a little bit of space between the shoulders. And continue to look straight down towards the floor. Take 1 or 2 slow breaths with the spine in a neutral position, hips in a neutral position. Taking the time to scan through the body, searching out any areas of tension or tightness. Consciously releasing and softening a little at a time. And then from here, we'll take the left hand in towards the midline of the mat. We'll step the left foot just outside of the left hand. Again, the options are to point the toes straight forward or to put them out on a 45-degree angle so the toes point towards the top left corner of the mat. And then we'll look for a little bit of a stretch along maybe the left hamstrings or the front of the right hip. So if you already feel it where you are, it's a good place to stay. If you're feeling it too intensely where you are, you can walk your right knee a little bit further forward, taking some of that intensity out of the pose. And if you're not feeling it yet, you can walk your right knee back. And if you are walking your right knee back, doing it a little bit at a time, stopping to check in at each point, and then pausing when you find the position that works for you. Allowing your hips to settle down and forward. Again, here we have a few different options for the arms. You can stay upright, either with hands palms flat on the floor, or by making your hands into little balls and putting the flat part of your knuckle onto the ground to take some of the pressure out of the wrists. If it's comfortable and you're able to be equally weighted through both arms, you can come all the way down onto the floor, bringing right and left elbow down onto the ground. I forgot to mention on the other side, but if you do have props available, if you have any blocks or maybe a firm cushion, you could bring your elbows down onto that as well, if that's more comfortable for you. You can choose to leave your left knee upright, or you can turn those toes out on a 45-degree angle and let that knee tip open to the side so that the outer edge of the left foot makes. From here, we'll breathe in. Again, lengthening the right toes back, crown of the head forward. So the whole body is lengthening on the inhale. And then use the exhale to soften, sink the hips down and forward. And find a little bit of softness, a little bit more connection with the ground. If you notice that your jaw or your neck are tight, Releasing the jaw, allowing the gaze to be straight down so that the back of the neck is in line with the rest of the spine. If you need to, you can turn your head side to side slowly and gently to release tension. And then we'll pause for 5 slow, steady breaths. Breathing in completely and out completely. After your 5 breaths, if you are down on your elbows, coming back upright. If your left knee is tilting out to the side, bring it back in towards the center of the body. If your right knee has been walked back, we'll walk it forward. And then we'll step the left knee back beside the right, coming into our neutral tabletop with knees below the hips, about hip distance apart. Pressing the floor away to create some space between the shoulder blades and drawing the lower belly up and in. We'll find a neutral spine with a little bit of core engagement. And we'll breathe in and out. And here we'll make our way back into a kneeling position. So we'll start by bringing the knees a little closer together. And there are 2 options. If you'd like to stretch through the bottoms of the feet, you can tuck your toes under and walk your hands back until you're upright. If it's uncomfortable to have your toes tucked under, or you'd like a little bit more of a quad stretch instead, you can have your toes untucked, tops of the feet flat on the floor, and hips sitting either onto the heels or into the space between the heels, moving those heels a little bit wider. So if you have any trouble with your knees, I would recommend not taking your heels out to the sides, either sitting directly on them or having the toes tucked under. And if you have any issues with your feet, any plantar fasciitis or anything else that makes the toe stretch uncomfortable, then choosing the other option. Neither option works for you. You can take a seated cross-legged position as well to Asana easy pose. Pause for a moment with the spine in an upright shape to give the neck a rest. And if you'd like, you can roll through your wrists. And take those wrists in the other direction. And we'll do a little bit of a stretch for the wrist. So in those last couple of poses, we had the wrist cocked pretty deeply. Let's reverse that. So we're going to place the backs of our hands down onto the ground, up by our knees, and then draw the arms back, press the wrists forward. We're looking for a little bit of a gentle stretch, either along the top of the hand or the top of the wrist. So if you're not feeling it with your hands in line with your knees, take them out a little bit further. Again, we want just a gentle stretch, nothing too intense. Fingers can be spread or they can draw together. It's up to you. It's a slightly different sensation. So maybe trying both and seeing what works. Taking a couple of slow, steady breaths. Release the wrist, come back upright. Taking another moment to roll them out. From here, we'll make our way either into pigeon or deer pose. So we'll move back into our tabletop for just a moment. If your toes were tucked under, give them a little wiggle. And then we'll start by sliding the right knee back behind the right wrist and tucking those right toes out behind the left wrist. If you are coming into a pigeon pose, you'll slide your left leg back until your hip comes low to the ground and you find a comfortable position to rest in. Again, we're looking for a little bit of a stretch along the outer right hip, nothing too intense. If you are coming into deer pose, you'll rock over onto your right hip. Line up your shin with the front of your mat and flex at the ankle. And then draw the left knee into wherever it's comfortable. Still placing your hands down on the ground in front of you. In either option, you have the choice to stay upright or to come down onto your elbows or further. The focus here is on the outer right hip. So we want to make sure that there's a little bit of sensation there, a little bit of a stretch, but nothing too intense. If it's too intense, feel free to take a gentler variation. As I mentioned before, if you have a firm cushion available, you could place that under your right hip for support or under your elbows for support, just like in the lunging poses. And once you found the position that works for you, allow yourself to settle into it. So ground down through each point of contact, each place where the body touches down on the ground, using that as an anchor point. Allow yourself to settle in a bit more deeply with each exhale. Breathing in to fill up and breathing out to soften. Noticing the expansion and softening of the back of the rib cage. Most of the time when we breathe in and out, we focus on the front of the body. What would it feel like to focus on the back of the body? And just as we did in the previous poses, as much as you can, allow your shoulders to soften, your neck to relax. If it's available to you and you want to stack your fists and place your forehead down on them for support, you can do that as well. Giving yourself the time to settle into the shape. Gradually easing into it. If after this first little period of time you're feeling that there's more intensity instead of less, feeling free to adjust yourself into a different variation of the pose. And if you're feeling that there's no intensity, you've lost that sensation, you've worked to your edge, feeling free to adjust into a deeper variation. For anyone who has extended all the way into the pose and they're not feeling that tug, that stretch, you can always work on working your right foot a little bit further forward. So making sure to keep that right ankle flexed and bringing the shin more parallel with the front of the front of the mat. Grounding down through both sides, through the ankle and through the knee, and squaring the body towards the front of the mat. I won't demonstrate it because I'm not there today. Remembering to always work with where you're at in the moment, not where you were yesterday or where you think you should be today. Really taking the time to search for that sensation, to tune in to the feeling in the body. Let's take 5 more slow breaths on this side. And whenever you finish your 5 breaths, if you are down on your elbows, coming back upright, 2 options to come out of it. Number 1 is to roll onto the right hip and draw the left knee forward. Number 2 is to come back upright, draw the left knee forward. We'll all meet up in our tabletop, whichever way you want to get there. And we'll prepare to do the same on the other side, moving right into it when you're ready. Sliding the left knee up to the left wrist. Tucking the left toes behind the right wrist. And then either rolling onto the left hip to take our deer pose, bringing the shin parallel with the front of the mat and drawing the left knee in. Or staying upright and sliding that right foot back behind you. Either way, we want to keep the left ankle flexed. We want to square the body towards the top of the mat. You can choose either to stay upright on your hands or you can come down onto your elbows. If you have any kind of props available, you could place them underneath of your elbows for support, whether it's a firm cushion or blocks or stacked books. Taking a moment to notice each and every place where you touch down on the ground, every place where the mat is offering you support. Acknowledging that the support is there. And allowing yourself to settle into it, getting heavier through each part of the body that touches down. Remembering to continuously check in with the sensation that you're feeling in your left hip and throughout the rest of your body. Adjusting at any time if you need to, making yourself more comfortable with a gentler variation of the pose, or allowing yourself to move deeper if you've worked with the breath enough that you're no longer feeling that edge. Keeping this sensation in your focus. Allowing that sensation to anchor you to the present moment. And let's take 5 more full deep breaths on this side. And after you finish your 5 breaths, no rush. We'll make our way back upright. If you come down onto your elbows, 2 options, either coming up onto your left knee and sliding your right knee forward to make your way to tabletop, or rolling over onto the left hip and drawing that right knee forward. We'll meet up in tabletop, however you want to get there. And then we'll settle ourselves back into a child's pose, taking the knees a little bit wider than hip distance apart, bringing the big toes to connect and settling the hips down towards the heels. Let the upper body recline down, either extending the arms out to the top of the mat, really stretching, reaching the fingertips forward, or allowing this to be a more passive pose by bending the elbows, stacking the arms, or stacking balled hands and placing your head on the backs of your hands or your arms. Another option, if it's comfortable for you, if you don't have any low back pain, would be to draw the knees together. Allow the upper body to drape over the legs, and then reach your fingertips back towards your toes, allowing the shoulder blades to spread, allowing the arms to be heavy at the sides. Taking whichever variation suits you best. And allowing yourself to settle into it. Letting the hips sink down and back. And again here, focusing on the feeling of the rib cage on the back of the body. Noticing how the back of the body feels as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And as always, if you notice that your mind wanders to other things, other places, take a moment to notice what those things are that draw your attention. And then guide your awareness back to the here and now, allowing yourself to be present in your body, present on your mat. Moving slowly, let's start to make our way up out of the pose, walking the hands up towards the body, bringing yourselves upright. Draw the knees together and shift the hips off to one side, and then extend the feet out in front of the body. Taking a moment to bend through knees and bend through ankles, bringing some movement back into the joints after they've been still. And then we'll find a comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you. You could leave your legs extended or you can cross them, whatever you like. And take a moment just to roll through the neck, dropping the chin down towards the chest, lengthening the back of the neck, and then slowly rolling the chin over towards one shoulder. We'll go back down through center and over to the other side. Taking your time, moving nice and slow, and feeling free to pause in any one area if you feel that you need a deeper stretch. Let's bring the head back to stillness at center. And we'll make our way into a final resting pose. So if you'd like to stay seated, you can. If you'd prefer to lay down, you can do that as well. If there are any props that you'd like to grab, you can get them ready. If you prefer to sit up on a piece of furniture, you can do that as well. Just as we did at the beginning of the class, finding a position that works for you, that feels comfortable for you, and allows you to feel grounded and stable. If you are in a reclined Shavasana, maybe taking your feet mat distance apart, allowing toes rock the sides. Wherever you are, you can soften your shoulders down your back, letting your collarbone be broad, finding openness through the chest. Let's allow our arms to hang heavy, connecting with whatever supports them. We'll close our eyes or allow the gaze to soften downward. Take a moment to relax the jaw, allowing the upper and lower teeth to separate and the tongue to fall away from the roof of the mouth. Soften the muscles of the face, releasing any expression. And just as we did at the start of the class, let's take a moment to scan through the body and notice any areas where you're still feeling like you're holding on, where there's some resistance to release. And at each one of those spots, really take the time to notice the support that's closest and settle into it, giving yourself permission to relax, permission to accept that support. If there is any area of the body that's not responding to this visualization, this conscious relaxation, taking a moment to give yourself some love, some gratitude for the hard work that you've been doing, whatever has caused that tightness. And take a moment to thank your body for everything that it does for you. If you have been focusing on controlling your breath, even letting that go, allowing your breathing to return to a comfortable, natural rhythm. Notice if that rhythm is the same or if it's different from what you started with this evening. And let's start to turn our attention back to the outside world, maybe gently blinking the eyes open, inviting some light in. Start to gently wiggle fingers and toes. Circle wrists and ankles. And turn the head from side to side. And let's bring everything back to stillness. If you did choose to take a reclined position, allowing yourself to drop your knees and roll around to one side of the body or the other. Pausing for a moment there and then meeting up in a seated position. If you have been seated and you'd like to change the shape you're in, you can do that as well. From here, we'll ground equally through both sides of the body, rooting down through both sitting bones and lengthening the spine, lifting up through the crown of the head. Let's draw our hands in together in front of our hearts, sealing the outer edges of the palms and the tips of the fingers. From the light that shines within me to the light that shines within you. Namaste.